Well, South Africans are being invited to help rename villages, towns and cities. The South African Geographical Names Council says there's still many places that reflect the language and cultural heritage of colonial and apartheid administrations. In the past 3 years, 122 geographical names have been standardized in the country, but there's a lot more to still do, I'm sure. The council's chairperson, Palesa Kádi, joining us this evening from the South African Geographical Names Council. Palesa, good evening to you. Appreciate your time. I really was looking forward to this interview. And while a lot has been done as far as the urban areas and city names are concerned, as I mentioned, villages, towns are being left behind. How much work is there still to do? Good evening.
Good evening, Gareth. There's quite a lot of work to be done everywhere else. We don't even want to separate villages because most of them are not necessarily complex for us. They are named after certain people whom villagers know, but towns are named mainly after people that people are unable to relate to, or people who have never even lived in those towns. So that is the difference I wish to make. We've seen this in Limpopo mainly, where people were saying, but there's Ramatlala and all the villages, most of our villages are named after our chiefs, after people we know. But it's mainly the urban centers that also carry some form of concern.
Help me understand, how do you begin this process? I've always found this fascinating because cities are easy, aren't they? You're going to name main roads after former national leaders, provincial leaders, and those who are influential in South African politics and society. When it comes to villages and towns, how narrow do you get with names? Is it a local mayor who lived a few years ago? Is it a local priest? Where do you begin that process?
Remember, it's not the South African Geographical Names Council that changes places. It is the community members.
Quite right.
We receive submission from any member, concerned member of the public. They do not have to be a politician or any influential person. So in that regard, we take these and process them, having also looked at them in a manner that is the history behind the name. Can it be correctly spelled, or was it correctly spelled? Where we work with Pansalp in this regard. So it really matters to put context in terms of what we are. We are an advisory body, as the Act stipulates, to advise the minister on the process and what was submitted before us. So I preside with council over these submissions. Each province makes submissions. Any member of the community can make a submission, but also any member of a community where it is felt by the very same people that they have made a contribution. They do not have to be politically aligned or carry a particular office, but when community calls on their name, we are far from creating a discretion or denying the community that opportunity.
Help me understand, when we talk about a geographical feature, Palesa, because I think the most common changes that people will notice in South Africa is when they change street names and they name bridges after significant South Africans. What other features do you often hear from communities, especially in villages and towns? They want to have the name of a church change. They want to have the name of a municipal building. What do we mean by geographical features? What are the most unusual requests you have received in the past few years?
They are not unusual because we respect every entry, but you will find that it's the names of the rivers, names of the mountains, names of the forests. So you then reflect, and that is where we get mainly the indigenous history around the name, and also some of the battles. You'll find that they took place around the area. and new names being submitted, but they are not as prominent. Remember, no one lives in the river. So it requires then that we look into these as well. So there's quite a lot. I mean, we still have the many rivers remaining the same names. We have Table Mountains. We have lots of mountains, Machalis, and still the same names. So we have not received quite a compelling cases to change these, and they remain part of the landscape that requires to be transformed. It's only that people now are quite occupied about street names, which is of concern for them. They also continue to look into national roads. And fortunately on this one, we see the development in the towns and the working relationship we have with South African Weather Service in this regard. When you look at the map today in the news, you'll find a different map altogether, like as if you were to look in the past 5 years. So there is a progression, there is incremental submission, and it's remaining official now. We've just had Gqeberha in the past. Now we also have Pomeroy in KZN named after Tatu Solomon Linda. Awambube, composer, So with all of this, it takes one ordinary South African to make that submission.
Yeah. Let's talk about, just very briefly, Palesa, I need to say goodbye to you in a second. As I do that, let's talk about these submissions for a moment. You and I are talking about it. Someone at home might be going, Palesa, I want to put my submission in. I want to put my name in. As I say goodbye to you, how does an ordinary South African put their submission in? What do they need to do?
Fortunately, 2 months ago, we launched a website. It is www.sagnc.gov.za. The website contains forms, but also in our municipalities, municipal offices, we do get, and also in the Department of Sports, Arts and Culture's website, you do get, and their regional offices. You'll find assistance there. The forms are for free, and you can be taken through. They are submitted, and then the municipality assists, and it goes to the province where the names are consulted on when there's an issue around the name, which unfortunately, it's the nature of democracy. We've received quite a number of litigations on certain names, but also quite a lot of commentary, positive, on changing of names. So the forms are available. If we were to go to these websites, if we were to go to our municipal offices, or look into the department's website as well, we can. We have provincial geographical names councils as well, meaning that we have people that are appointed by MECs to take care of the submissions at a provincial level. So do municipalities. So it is a structured approach that looks into many elements of the submission. And we want to work very well with traditional leadership. They've been in support. There's also communities that also come to us as well and say, we want to make the submissions because we have very unkind names, like Endlovini, Lahlumlenze, and all these that do not make sense, especially for the younger generation. So people are coming forth, and we want to encourage younger people to think about this, but also institutions to make the names available, and our communities to make this their rightful obligation to take this responsibility and forward the names to us.
May the titans of history forever be remembered in their names. Palesa, thank you very much indeed. Palesa Kádi joining us this evening, and it's a fascinating debate. I'd actually love to get Palesa back on and a few other people and talk about the issue of languages. I mean, how do you try and decide in a village, in a town, in a city? Yes, you've got the prominence of Africans, but then you have all the languages that we have as well. Where do you begin that debate? It must be a fascinating job to have. Palesa Kádi, the South African Geographical Names Council. You can go look for more details. If you want to submit, you're welcome to just go and look for the SA Geographical Names Council.